Good evening. Good evening. Lynn, hello. So who's in the house tonight? Celebrate Wesak with me. See, look. I hope you put on your best rags. A little bit of... I put some... This is the celebrate... When I said this was going to be a celebration, Wesak celebration, essentially that's it. I tried. I did a little bit. And sometimes, you just do the best, no matter how limited your best is. All right. My goodness, look at you all. Olivia and Natalie, Mark and Sally and Jamie and Rebecca and Glenda and Barbara and Nat and Tom and Sue and Liz and Amy and Becky. Happy Wesak Day to you all. And Peter and Lucy and Barbara. How's Barbara today? Having a nice day. So what should we talk about? It's Wesak. What does Wesak mean to you? Does it mean anything? Is it important? Oh, I see why you said oops now, Barbara. Happy Wesak, Paul. Happy Wesak, Barbara too. Linda. John. Julia. Hi, Poe. I'm here to celebrate Wesak with you. You look great. With a double T. Nice flowers. Thank you. Somebody sent them to me today. Dave. What a coincidence. Steve. Birgit. So glad you could make it. So I have to apologize in advance. Something about this full moon. Robert. It's Wesak. It's the full moon day of May. We honor the Buddha and his teaching because it is so utterly life-changing and transforming, and I found it to be such, and I am genuinely in awe of the Buddha and what he gave the world, and it amazes me that not even more people comprehend that. But forgive me if I'm a bit frivolous tonight, because for some reason Wesak, the full moon, is affecting me very strangely. Greetings, Paul, and all. Leslie, glad you could make it. So I'm deeply, deeply grateful to the Buddha for having gone through everything that he went through. Superflower moon, Ebru. Hi, Sue. Hi, Ebru. Liz, you made it. Excellent. So I'm hugely, hugely grateful. And I guess that's part of the reason why I, hung around after having completed the training. Well, the truth was that Alan told me essentially. But he gave me the choice. But it wasn't, when somebody gives you a choice, but there's no real choice in it at all. And he was right. He said it would be the best thing to do, and he's absolutely right. And knowing that, Scott, so glad you could make it, and knowing that anyone can come to understand this, I was telling them in the Dhamma talk that we had this afternoon, anyone can come, if you're willing to put in the effort and the work. Keith, so glad you could make it. Amy, Wesak is like Good Friday, Easter and Christmas all in one. Yes, it is. One day you just get it all out of the way, and then you can get back to meditation. So I am deeply grateful to the Buddha, and what I do is my way of repaying that debt, such as it is, just to help keep. Susan, so glad you could make it. Peter says hello too. Great. Peter, I know you've benefited hugely from this teaching also. However, the full moon, for some reason, this full moon has made me somewhat childish and frivolous, and just to go on and on about stuff. How are other people coping with this full moon? It has been a strong one for me, this one. It's definitely been very strong. Concentration has exceeded mindfulness on many occasions. Liz, thank you for keeping it real here, Liz. Well, I've been reflecting how much easier and enjoyable my life has become since finding the Buddhist teaching. You're very grateful. Yeah, Liz, I mean, you have taken to it, Liz, like a duck to water. If I, without wishing to be too personal, you really have. Bodil, hello. So glad you could make it. Is there any other comments? Anyone else want to pipe up what the teaching has given them? I mean, for me, sadly, I've been quite bonkers with this move. I'm glad it's not just me, but I have been. It's been a kind of. It's not like I've tripped up a couple of times, which is unlike me. But it's more just what's going on psychologically. Just very, very. It is like someone just keeps putting something weird in my tea. I'm not complaining. Very strong, very bonkers. But so grateful you took up the choice to be our teacher. Yes. I don't believe in determinism. There was a choice, but it wasn't much of a choice. So yes, and we very much hope that we're going to be able to create the conditions to allow another generation of meditators to come through. I know all of us who are here full time feel similarly, that we very much want people to know that we're here. Obviously, people find us who live in the world, and they, you support the centre, and we give back by offering the teaching and helping you along. But there's also such an amazing opportunity for people to come in and train full time if their circumstances allow it. And we have so much potential in that regard. We have so much room that's available. So we're going to be thinking this over the summer. We're going to be thinking about how we can really just let people know what the opportunity is, because it is such an amazing opportunity to come in and train full time. Because if there are people who want to come in and train full time, to live as recluses, monks and nuns, and their understanding of the teaching grows exponentially, because it's 24/7 commitment, and they then inevitably are the most natural people to become the new teachers. And then I can grow old and I can be looked after. I can just meditate and get really concentrated. All right, I'm missing out on some comments here. The teaching has changed my life for the better so much. I can't say how grateful I am. Yeah, agree. It's utterly transformative. Ebru, I feel very emotional. Is that because it's Wesak, or that's because it's full moon? I know that they're the same thing, but is it your response to the teaching, or the response to the influence of the full moon? Julia, very strong moon. Yes, frivolous, bonkers, and over-giggly, overexcited. That sounds fairly normal for you, Julia. Leslie, when you read the various Nikaya and what the Buddha articulated, I find it jumps out of the pages at me. I find it difficult to understand how it is not more openly known by more people. That's one of those imponderables, Leslie. I agree. But that's folk for you. And if you take into consideration that maybe beings come for a rebirth as a human being, but not necessarily to realize the cessation of suffering, but they have other agendas, then that helps to make sense of it. And we do live, I was reflecting on this today actually, we do live in such an incredibly material society. So let's instead be grateful that there are enough of us who do understand it, or understand its significance, and who are very much willing to support the Buddha's teaching. The way we go about things is not the way that Buddhism in general goes about things. We keep ritual and ceremony to a minimum. It's a very pragmatic approach, and I respect all forms of Buddhism, and the fact that all these different ways of approaching it are helping to keep the essential message alive. And the fact that it's 2,500 years ago and it still works. You can go back to that source material, and the Nikayas are the Pali Canon is the oldest existing original word of the Buddha that we have, and it's amazing that it's here, and if you apply yourself to it, it produces such amazing results. Amy. Oh, no, Miss Linda. Thanks to the House of Inner Tranquillity and the Buddha, meditation is increasing my faith. Good. Amy, the Buddha's teaching has been quite literally life-changing for the better for me. Very grateful. Bodil has given me a lot of peace. Glenda, I look back and see how much my life has improved. Yes, of course, because it's not, some of the changes are almost subliminal. It's like you don't know the point at which you consciously changed your outlook in such a way that it started to affect the way you behaved, and therefore the sort of results that you get in your life. And the meditation, the improvement through the meditation is so gradual also, that from day to day you might not necessarily be able to tell, but when you look back over a period of time, yeah, incredible. Ebru, I feel so grateful for your teaching, Paul, and feel so blessed that I find faith in Buddha. Great. Tom, the teaching has been life-changing for me. Olivia, amazing to have more. Sorry, let me ask that. For me, amazing to have more living full-time. Oh, it would be amazing to have more living full-time. Yes, sorry, Olivia. This is the problem with having more than one strand of conversation. It could be quite amusing, especially given it's full moon. This could prove very amusing. Anyway, but your point is, yeah, it will be amazing to have more living full-time. We're losing Sarah and Jose at the end of the week on Saturday. Obviously, they're still going to be involved with the group, but they won't be living in. So yeah, so that's sort of concentrated my mind a little bit. Come on, we know that there are people out there. I mean, like Brother Theo's come in, and I was talking to Theo yesterday about this. And yeah, we both realised that there are plenty of people out there that wouldn't be tied down by life and would be able to do it, and would be really interested to do it. They just don't know that we're here. That's all it is. That's all it is people don't know that we're here and what's available. I mean, we'll work it out. Marielle, hello from France. Really glad you could make it. Ebru, full moon and teaching. Okay. John, I think without teaching, I would be going through the motions of life, but without any meaningful context. And that's so true for so many people. That is absolutely true. And it was true for me. And I was living the classic beta male life, really, for one reason and another. And at its center there was a sense of meaninglessness. And it was through a certain set of circumstances that I came to appreciate that there truly was more to life than meets the eye. And then that really concentrated my mind into particular areas of life and not others. and really it became essential that I follow the way, which is when I came to meet Alan. And for those that don't know the story, I met Alan James, who was the founder of the centre. I came for a meeting with him, having read his book, The Unfolding of Wisdom, and within an hour I had agreed to come in with a view to being a monk, and I was in completely free of all worldly concerns within 6 weeks. And I'd never been to the centre before, and I'd never met Alan before. But such was the impact that he had on me, and such I got to the point where I was absolutely so ready. And then here it was. I mean, that's the thing which I think is the really emotional thing, is that I was living in Bristol, and here was exactly what I needed 25 miles away from where I was living. And you know, and looking back, it's like, what are the chances of that? Because it's not like this is a mainstream undertaking by any stretch of the imagination. So you can't just say that's coincidence, can you? Can you? I guess you can. I guess you say it's anything you like. But so my 8.5 years, as it was, as a monk, it gave meaning to my life, to the point where I had a reason to get up in the morning. Do you know what I mean? And because of my nature, it was really, really helpful for me to have a structure and to have people to say, no, you've got to get up at 5:45 and you've got to be ready for the meditation at 6:30. And then after breakfast, then you work. You go and you clean some stuff and you water some plants, and and it was giving me a real proper training. And we're going to teach you to cook, and we're going to teach you how to garden, and it's like, we're going to teach you how to use a Hoover. We're going to teach you how to dust. Come on, Paul, be an adult. Oh yeah, okay. And do it all mindfully. Okay, I'm getting behind with the comments now. Julia, you say, oh dear, really? And I don't know what that's in regard to, whether me being a beta male or whatever it was, but it doesn't matter. Olivia, the centre is like a jewel, a perfect traditional functioning monastery in the middle of Bradford and Avon. More monastics would add more. They certainly would. Certainly would. I mean, the place ticks beautifully because of the dedication of Brother Nigel and Brother Theo, Sarah, and Jose and myself, plus all the help we've been getting from people who commit to becoming a day student and come in once a week, plus the commitment of everybody who has ever walked through the place and supported it. And that's all action that people perform which produce results, and it's directed towards the highest and best object, the Buddha, his teaching, helping to keep it alive, helping to keep it relevant, making sure that it retains its profundity by not messing around with taking stuff out just because you don't like it. Alex, so glad you could make it. Sally, I was reflecting earlier how fortunate I am to have found the House of Inner Tranquillity, where the teaching comes from personal experience, not just theory. Yeah, and that's why we don't muck around with it, because we know how powerful the complete teaching is. And if you out of ignorance, you start taking things out because you don't like them, not the fundamentals of the teaching, you just don't do that. And as long as you don't do that, and you stay true to the teaching, and you protect the teaching, and then you genuinely undertake the training, not just intellectually, but really, then it becomes truly powerful and truly life-changing. And that's why, it was the authenticity I saw in Alan, which was what guided me to fall under his instruction. It was just totally obvious it was coming from the right place. Yes. As soon as I heard what Paul had to say, I was struck. It made sense of life for me. I didn't realise I had even been looking for a purpose. Very good point. I mean, I can only really say, how the Buddha's teaching helped orientate me and give me a direction and a sense of purpose. Subsequent to it, at the time, I was just like, Jeff, hi Paul, happy Wesak. Jeff and Maxine, so glad you could make it. I hope you're having a nice day. Robert, advertising Buddhist journals, etc. Just thinking. No, very good thought. Very good thought. There must be a way of getting into people's field of awareness, isn't it? But that's one very, very good way. We'll look into that. Bodil, very true for me too. Okay. Mark, I'm amazed. Oh, it's been clipped. Comment's been clipped. But only just. I'm amazed at what's happened in this life since I stumbled across the House of Inner Tranquillity about 3 years ago. Is it really 3 years? Oh my goodness. A few times I've decided to stop, leave, but could not. Which has actually been quite funny, Mark, I have to be honest. No, it feels like I've found the answer and that nothing else can really compare to the teaching. Believe me, I've tried. Yeah, I believe that of you, believe that of lots of people. And sometimes, following this path, there's just such great clarity with it. You know where you're going. It really feels, it's like you understand what to do. And there are other times when it's so foggy, it's so, the way ahead seems so mysterious. And that's why I think you need a Sangha. Because it's not a straight journey. What's that David Lynch film called? The Straight Story. It's not a straight. The spiritual path is not sort of a straight and gentle incline to truth. It's just peaks and troughs. And you need a Sangha to be there, a very honest Sangha with people who really genuinely know what they're talking about, to bring you down from the peaks a bit and to lift you up from the trough of them, so that you become more and more equanimous. And so you need that mutual support, I think, as well. Scott, it's changed my life massively for the better. I feel I'm always learning and I'm always grateful to you and the Buddha. Yes, indeed. Great. Kim, hi Paul, good to be here again. How are you, Kim? Sue, the more I discover, the more amazed I am at the wisdom of the teaching. I feel blessed having access to the centre, and in particular your wisdom and compassion. Well, that's very kind. I would say that all I'm doing, I don't own that. That's not me, it's not mine, it's not myself. I'm just passing on what I've found to be true. Linda, I mentioned Anda. I'm sure did I not mention Anda? I did mean to mention Anda. Anda, I apologise if I forgot. I thought I mentioned Anda. Didn't I say Brother Nigel, Anda, and then Brother Theo? Anyway. Yes, so what I've discovered is that wisdom isn't something that you hold in mind. It's something. It's not like something you found out last week and you recall what it was that you found out last week. It's ever present, and it's available to absolutely everyone. So all this is that it's just coming out through the filter of the conditions that I, in inverted commas, have met with. So it comes out in this particular way. So everyone who comes to realize the truth, it comes out of them, filtered through their conditioning, which is why Gotama, the Buddha, was so important, that there was this historical Buddha meaning that enlightenment, awakening, is the same for everyone. It's just coming out of the sleep of separation, the illusion of separation, and realizing the true nature of reality, which is non-separate. And it's so simple, it's unbelievably simple. But the moment you try to put it into words, you make it complex. And that's why Gotama was so important, because not only did he discover the truth of things as they have always been, he was able to communicate it in such a way that it can last 2,500 years, and that it can be so effective. And that stems from all his previous lives of developing himself and developing his spiritual faculties to such a degree that he was able to construct a description that he could communicate, because fundamental to all of this is you have to find the truth for yourself. Buddhas do but point the way. So anyone who does find it is like sub-Buddha, really, because there'll be a variance in their ability to communicate those truths. Sally, I'm happy to help with advertising if you need anything done. Yeah, we do. I think we need a collective concentrating of the mind, the collective mind. Time as a day student is so helpful with the teaching. People who come in as day students do develop, I don't want to use the word progress, they do mature at a faster rate. You know what I mean, in a good way. Their spiritual faculties develop at a quicker rate than they would have otherwise, because it's not comparable person to person, because we're all unique in that sense. But your own rate of development and maturity is increased through that weekly, day-long involvement. Amy, perhaps some presence on subreddit Buddhism or stream entry. There's a stream entry subreddit, is there? I say. Yeah, okay. Tell us what you know, Amy. Email us. Sally is somebody who, Sally, you go on Reddit, don't you? Maybe we need to be on subreddits. This is the world I haven't really investigated, because actually the weird thing is I'm not actually that into Buddhism. It's like, what am I going to do with my time? Am I going to go and read Buddhist subreddits? No. So I don't mean to be cocky at all. It's just, it literally doesn't interest me. Becky, I sometimes forget how rare and precious it is to have a teacher who has walked the path and truly knows. It is incredible, really. Yes. Yes. Because we get used to it, don't we? We forget how spoiled we actually are. Yeah. And again, I don't want to make it sound like I'm boasting. I don't want it to appear like that. I just want it to be a celebration of the fact that everything that we're saying is actually true. And yeah, and I think we do. It is possible to take it for granted. In fact, I know people who take it for granted. But maybe they just weren't ready. I mean, sorry, Sally, I'll come to that. Stunning comment in a second, if I can remember what it was I was just saying. Yeah, I know that there are people for whom it just hasn't connected. There are plenty of people that have come through the doors of the House of Inner Tranquillity who haven't stayed around for very long. It wasn't what they were looking for. It didn't make sense to them, or whatever it was that they came for was resolved, and that there wasn't any deeper sort of aspiration in that regard. All of which is absolutely fine. even what Sally is telling me about what happens to my podcast on stream entry, it's fine. It's fine because everyone is where they're at. Sue, there are ways of putting across a message, but your voice is always authentic and relatable. I so appreciate the time and care you put into helping me and all of us. Well, thank you, Sue. Being limited in the way of being able to communicate these things, it means that there'll be certain people who resonate with certain teachers. I know that, for instance, when Jackie James, who co-founded the centre, died, people left for one reason or another. One of the reasons was they could believe that an enlightened teacher would have died aged 42. When I took over from Alan, even though that we had staggered it over a long period of time, like literally years, when he finally formally retired and I took up the reins, such as they are, a load of people left. And, you know, that's quite, it's quite challenging. But I also have to say that an awful lot of people stayed. And we, between us all, we reformulated the way we did things, and we kept it going. And I know that Alan is really, really very pleased that it's all managed to keep going. And I like to think that were Jackie looking down from wherever Jackie would be looking down from, if she ever was, that she would be really pleased. They began it as an experiment. That's very important to bear in mind. And that was, for me personally, that was always something that was very, very helpful, because it is, you can't help it. You know, it's a burden. It's a weight. You don't want to let people down. You don't want it to fail on your watch. It's only human. And then to, talk about it with Alan, and for Alan to say, Jackie and I set it up as an experiment to see what would happen. It was like, so we just continue the experiment. Right, Sally. Been putting this off, but I can't put it off any longer. Stream entry subreddit deleted your podcast on stream entry. Hang on, can I do a? I'm going to do a wow. You got 4 wows. Wow, wow, wow. Wow, wow. Did they say why? Do they offer explanations? Was it just not very good? Becky, everyone is honking their horn for the Buddha. Yay! Oh, wait. Well, but this isn't a traditional Buddhist country, is it? So, I'm sure it's a lot more prevalent in Thailand and Myanmar and Sri Lanka and such places. You didn't mention jhanas was one reason. That subreddit is quite American, I think. Okay. So the implication there would be that they believe that you have to master jhanas to attain stream winning. Oh dear. Bodil. Sorry, I missed a bit. I've just been outside to clap for the NHS. I did hear some honking of this and that. Oh, and that now I understand. Becky's. Oh, so faux pas after faux pas for Paul. Not only did I not go out and clap again, and I'm literally, I've been seen not to do it. They said I was wrong. Okay. So there you go. So see, because all I'm thinking of is, the different ways in which the Buddha taught. There's doing all the jhanas first, not just the fine material jhanas, but the immaterial jhanas, doing the whole of the samatha path first, and then doing the necessary insight work afterwards. There's doing samatha and vipassana concurrently, and there's the way that we do it, which is dry insight. So they're entitled to say I'm wrong. Perhaps they just haven't realized that there are more than one route up the mountain. What I certainly personally discovered was that the actual supramundane path and fruition does reflect each path and fruition does reflect does seem to be at jhana level, and certainly the jhana factors that arise in accordance with each of the four jhanas, the four paths, seem to correlate very, very closely. There we go. But they don't have the experience that you, Alan, and Jackie have. Yeah, I mean, I would imagine that somebody that has been through the Buddha's teaching, whether they've been through any of those three forms, doing all samatha first and then doing the necessary insight work, doing them concurrently, or doing dry insight, as we do here, anybody that's been through the four fruitions would not have that kind of issue. They really wouldn't. So just to get back, before I come on to Peter's, just to get back, just to reiterate that I do have absolute full support for the NHS and everything that they're doing. And I'm not one of these people who tends to join in with hand claps and so forth, but I wouldn't want anyone to think for one moment that I wasn't in complete support and, frankly, awe for what the NHS do and what they've done over many, many years. And I always felt that we should be more devoted to such frontline workers, and I hope that they, as part of our culture going forward, that they are held in higher esteem, and that is reflected in the way that they're rewarded financially. Not that I'm political at all. That was a personal comment. Peter, you completely rekindled my faith in the teaching. I was living in London after the London satellite crew disbanded, and of course all pre-social media and internet, it became harder to maintain contact with House of Inner Tranquillity. Your emergence and your use of social media has meant an awful lot to me. Thank you, Paul. Yeah, it has made a huge difference to the centre as well. I think let's say that we haven't been quite at the cutting edge of the modern world in that regard, but certainly, it does seem to be the way to go. I mean, certainly after this is all over and we're back to some semblance of normality, we'll still be doing live streams, definitely, because they are really helpful. What is dry insight? So in the dry insight, all that means is that instead of developing all the concentration meditations first, and it's the concentration that gives you the sense of, warmth and happiness and tranquility. So that's what we think of as the wetness. Instead of developing all that first, you simply learn enough concentration to let go of hindrances, to be free of hindrances, which itself is a very nice state of concentration. It's not deep, deep, deep concentration. You're still aware of the five physical senses, essentially. You're aware of what's going on in mind, and then you just immediately start mindfully noting what's going on in order to comprehend the characteristics of transience and so forth. So it's not doing all the concentration first, essentially. That's what that means. Kim, do you think that it's more difficult for Westerners in individualistic societies to understand and practice Buddhist meditation and understanding things like non-self than those who are born into collectivist societies where the sense of self might be less? I just tend to notice in Western Buddhism that it can be quite intellectual in terms of the kind of people who are attracted to it. Yeah, it's odd what happens in the West, because the way it's formed in some places is that it very much retains the cultural inclinations from wherever it's come. So places like Amaravati over here in England, they are very traditional Thai. So it's not like it was adapted to suit the Buddhism came over and adapted to the English or British culture. Whereas where you see Buddhism has moved to other places, it's like, you have the Tibetanized Buddhism, the Buddhism that came into contact with the Bon tradition in Tibet and transformed Buddhism into this extraordinarily rich, diverse teaching. And then you see how Buddhism went over to, say, all the way to Japan and became Zen, and how minimalist that is. And so I think maybe what will happen over time is that what's developing will be a far more British way of approaching it, or a far more North American way of approaching it, or however you see it. Maybe it just needs more time to really develop, because it hasn't been over in the West for that long, has it? And we are intellectual. We do vaunt intellectual knowledge as being the highest form of knowledge in the West, don't we? Especially in the sort of post-Western Enlightenment era. There are people in the West who deny the Buddha's teaching on Nibbana, who deny his teaching on the jhanas. So here you go. I mean, there's a form of Buddhist practitioners who say that I'm wrong because I'm not teaching developing the jhanas before stream winning. And there's a whole different kind of Buddhism in Britain today who are saying the Buddha never taught jhanas, he never taught rebirth, he never taught nibbana. I think it's going to take a few more generations to settle down some more. Because I think it's taking a lot of different forms, and maybe, and really, what's the most important thing? For me, it was I didn't then, and I don't now, care about what other people think it is and what it's about. I wanted to be free of suffering. That was my bottom line. And it was clear that freedom from suffering and understanding the way life works were two sides of the same coin, and that was the most important thing for me. So in the end, is it that a society is more individualistic? I mean, I certainly think that if there's more of a collective mentality, then perhaps, yeah, you might not. You might instinctively head towards ritual and ceremony and tradition. And if you're more individualistic, then you might want to be able to throw your cap on a teaching like this intellectually and say you're able to understand it. I don't know. What do you want from it, Kim? I think that's the only really important question. What do we individually want? And does the Buddha's teaching provide us with the necessary means in order to realize what we want? Dennis. This is awesome. Excellent. Thank you. My life is so busy with the mundane aspects of life. This live broadcast is most appreciated. Thanks again, Paul, for all your questions and comments. Not at all, Dennis. Robert, people want instant Buddhism in the West. Jackie James, who was the co-founder here, who went all the way through the training and came out the other side, because what I'm going to say, that her quote that I'm going to mention now is so apposite. She said, I'm paraphrasing, but she said, essentially you have to hold two ideas in mind at the same time. The willingness to spend as much time as it takes to realize freedom from suffering, and we could be talking about years, decades, lifetimes. And so you need to have that deep, deep patience to accept, to have the long view of what you're doing, and to operate on that basis. But you also need, by the same token, you also need to know that insight, understanding can happen at any moment, especially if you're paying attention, especially if you're, that you take the path to be the most important thing and the thing that directs your life. And so that there is that comprehensive engagement with it, that you're not just going through the motions, you're not just treading water with it, but it is something that is vital and dynamic and alive. You want to know, you want to understand, and so you live your life in accordance with that. Then you have to understand that knowledge, insight, wisdom, true understanding of things is instantaneous. Yeah, so you have to hold those two things in mind and have the patience on the one hand and the dynamic presence on the other. And that's why a teacher and a sangha is so helpful, because it helps to keep when you're feeling impatient, it helps to remind you of the need for patience. And when you're being a little bit absent, it points out, hey, come on, you've got to pay attention if you want to know, if you want to understand. You've got to practice mindfulness. Amy, thank you so much for the online offering, including live streams. I wouldn't be able to access your teaching at the House of Inner Tranquillity otherwise. Indeed not. And now, that's a blessing, but there are also limitations, obvious limitations that come with that. But overall, obviously, it's better to than not to, if you see what I mean. Leslie, by directly knowing and fully understanding form, by becoming dispassionate towards it and abandoning it, one is capable of destroying suffering. By directly knowing, fully understanding feeling, perception, volitional formations, consciousness, by becoming dispassionate towards it and abandoning it, one is capable of destroying suffering. Samyutta Nikaya, Book of the Aggregates. Yes, and Leslie, are you pointing this out in regard to Sally's experience with the stream entries subreddit, because that's a very good response. Now, what the Buddha did, he used the concentration of the jhanas as a way, after he realized that nothing he could do was going to cause enlightenment to happen. That's the most critical thing to understand. He used the jhanas, but he used the concentration from the jhanas to just purify his mind. So his mind was completely lucid, pure, clear, focused. But he used that merely as a supporting condition, and he did his work outside of jhana, because you can only come to understand life if you're willing to look at sensory experience, physical sensory experience, as well as mental experience. So his seeing of the five aggregates was done outside of any jhanic experience. Yeah. So he might very well have used it as a support, but that was not the critical thing. The critical thing was the observation of the aggregates, understanding their true nature. Kim, I want to be able to wake up and to work towards social justice at the same time. But what if waking up is the realization that society is just? I guess my question is also directed towards my sense that in Western society it appears that it's necessary to spend more time defining an egoic position than in collectivist societies before you can begin to deconstruct it. By egoic position, I'm not sure if that's the right word, but I'm referring to having a sense of an individual self. Yeah. Look, as an integral part of the training, there is compassionate activity towards others. So it's already in there as part of the parami. Actions have results. That's not the case for people who just take up the Buddha's teaching. Life is uneven, but it is fair, you discover, which is all part of waking up. You realize that you don't have to save the world. You can't save the world. The world doesn't require saving. That you help others as part of your development in letting go of self-orientated behavior, self-centered behavior. But we are all doing this because we know and understand it to be in our best interests. So, in a way, this path is very much about letting go of views, letting go of taking necessary positions. It's about letting the world go free and letting it be truly what it is, rather than asserting our beliefs upon it. Our beliefs, incidentally, that are arrived at through ignorance of the understanding the true nature of reality. So as a very necessary part of our development, we help others, but we also see the limitations of that and recognize that no one can enlighten another. So it's just a question of whether do we individually want to realize freedom from suffering. Now, I also have to point out that you don't lose the sense of an individual self through this process at all. It's that you see that the sense of an individual self is non-self. Right? So that really has to be understood. So it's not this idea that the sense of individual self is dissolved. That is a concentration experience. That's jhanic. concentration experience, which mirrors some of the qualities of enlightenment, but is not enlightenment at all. The realization of enlightenment in no way inhibits your ability to operate within the world. You retain that sense of individual self. It's just you see through it. And in the end, overcoming suffering trumps everything. You know? But you'll never make the world just. Because we all fare on according to our deeds and we're not in control. Maybe you could do a talk on that, jhana and insight, and I could post that. Yeah, possibly. Alex, I really appreciate you being there, sharing the teaching and your wisdom, guiding my faltering steps. Lovely to hear you talk about the Buddha tonight too, very uplifting. Good. Kim, I realised a long time ago that I can't save anyone, even though I tried a lot before realising it wasn't possible. So nowadays it's the development of equanimity and letting go of the idea I can control what happens. Yeah, and practicing insight meditation will do that work par excellence. It really will. Because the more, I mean, one of my favourite things to talk about stream winning is that upon the realisation that there is indeed a beyond of the conditioned and conditioning universe, throughout that first path, you've been observing how conditioned and conditioning the components that go to make up any experience actually are. So as a consequence, you see directly that nobody can control what is unfolding. And so the culmination of that is the turning away from the five aggregates, the dispassion to those five aggregates. And in the letting go of the obsession with the occurrence of phenomena, there is this finger snap of recognition of what lies beyond conditions. And it's from that point on, things like politics is relegated. It's not that you no longer have any preferences. You very much will maintain preferences. But the idea that through politics we can solve the problem of suffering that's just blown away forever. And life just gets simpler, you know. And the idea that somehow that through that you become more uncaring, no. Because you start to understand from then on what the real core, you know, you have been understanding that, and at that point there is just this absolutely clear comprehension of what the cause of suffering actually is. And it is the failure to realize the transcendent aspects of existence. So whilst somebody is in full denial and full ignorance of that transcendent element to life, they still rely on the material world for their happiness. So the material world has to be right. And they see all this apparent injustice, all this apparent wrongness, and they've got no sense of how it could possibly be like that. And so that leads to all this action to try to resolve it, all of which just tends towards an ever greater ignoring of the truth of life as it really is. And it is very much a teaching that goes against the stream in that regard. And people may very well try to, you know, suggest that somehow lacks compassion, that you wouldn't put all, you know, it's somehow selfish, that you wouldn't put all your resources, your time and your energy into helping other people before helping yourself. But that's the kind of talk that the Buddha completely saw through. which was what makes his teaching so precious and so invaluable, and why we need to protect it. Because there are all kinds of pressures for us to conform with the way the world sees the world, the wider world. And we get that on Facebook, we get it on Twitter, we get it on YouTube, we get it on the mainstream media, we get it from one another. And the pressure is great, and we all want to be liked. We don't want to be held in contempt or be considered a laughing stock by others. So the pressure to conform is really, really strong. But for me, and I'm sure for a lot of you too, the desire to be free of suffering trumps, no pun intended, trumps the desire to fit in. That was my next question. How do we really distinguish between equanimity and I can't be bothered anymore? Because I can't be bothered anymore is not equanimity at all. So equanimity is an evenness of mind. So it's not turning a blind eye to the suffering around us, far from it. Like I say, you're working with suffering and you're coming to understand the true causes of suffering. So that makes you more compassionate, and you can see that other people can't see that. So that makes you even more compassionate. But compassion is a state of mind. It's a mental quality. And compassion sometimes is, in this situation, I'm going to do nothing. It's not always I will act. It's not always doing the most obvious thing. So sometimes equanimity is confused with indifference, but actually indifference is the near enemy to equanimity. Indifference is coming from craving, whereas equanimity is coming from knowledge and vision of the way life really is. But sometimes, like I say, sometimes you might decide that the compassionate thing to do is to do nothing in this situation. And I think especially at the moment in society and in the world generally, that people only see one side of compassion. They see the soft side. You've always got to be the passive, receptive, soft recipient of somebody else's suffering. You've got to take care of them. You've got to agree with them. You've got to buy into their narrative that they've been hard done by. But compassion has another side to it, which is firm, which is disciplined, which is putting clear boundaries down, which is establishing right ways of behaving. It's the side of compassion that is willing to make somebody feel bad, that accepts the necessity that somebody is going to feel bad in the short term for their long-term benefit. Amy, I know a few people coming to meditation practice as an alternative to using psychedelics to achieve certain reward states, and so maybe the confusion and fixation with jhana and stream entry. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I have a past, Amy. That's all I'll say. And as part of my journey to come to understanding was having certain assumptions embedded in me based on certain past life experiences that I've had, if I can put it like that. And so making the assumption that what I was aiming for was a repetition of those past experiences, but perhaps through different means. And it was with the help of my teacher, Alan, that I was able to knock those out. Because this is a beautiful thing, because until you actually experience And I absolutely agree that that's why a lot of people go down the concentration route. And it's not a bad thing to go down the concentration route. It's not a criticism of that. But you have to see that what it gives you is an experience, whereas the insight path is giving you wisdom. And I think sometimes people confuse the two. But certainly what my teacher was able to show me was able to help me to see was that I had an attachment to, let's say, altered states of consciousness, if I can put it like that, and the perception of mystery and wonder, which is absolutely there, but I had an attachment to it, and that's what had to be let go of. And so the worst thing you can say is that somebody will be caught in this idea that enlightenment is a concentration experience, essentially, and that the development of the capacity to concentrate at very, very deep levels will give them those experiences. And if there is enough wisdom, they'll be able to recognize, as the Buddha himself did in his training before he became the Buddha, that temporary cessation of suffering is indeed temporary. That no matter how wondrous it is, and deep states of concentration are truly wondrous, absolutely gorgeous, they are necessarily transient, unsatisfactory, and non-self. They're still samsara. They're not freedom from samsara. Yeah. So I know that a lot of people get into those deep states of concentrations and they believe that is nibbana, that is freedom from suffering, and they never question that assumption. But it's still very efficient to enter into and abide in a jhana. I mean, it's extraordinarily wholesome. It's not a bad thing at all. It's a wondrous thing. But it's not enlightenment at all. Rebecca, indifference coming from craving. Yeah, remember that craving is for and against. It's trying to obtain, but it's also trying to get rid of. It's trying to stop things from changing, or it's trying to cause change. So when we say somebody is indifferent to the suffering of others, what do we mean? We mean that person is ignoring it. Why are they ignoring it? Because it will make them feel uncomfortable. They don't want to feel uncomfortable. Naturally, that's so helpful about the pressure to conform, the desire to fit in, and to see what to do, not do on its own merits. Yeah, which is why you need the Sangha, which is why you need the teaching, which is why you need the Buddha. You need the example of the Buddha, the inspiration of the Buddha, the recognition that this teaching goes in a different direction, and that there are people who understand that, and that you can, we're not circling the wagons by any means, but even here now we're just hanging out together, because we all, to whatever degree, or each of us somewhat differently, but we all get that. And going back to this thing of people seeing things differently and Buddhists seeing things differently. There's that expression in psychology which I like, which is the narcissism of small differences. So what are we arguing over? Whether you can become enlightened if you enter into the jhanas or not? Okay, that's fine. If that's what we're arguing about, great. It's like, we all follow the path that we see before us. We're all putting down the tracks in front of us as we go along through our actions. So, I'm fine. If people are practicing jhanas, I think that's just incredible and brilliant. And if they turn around and say, well, you can't be doing it right because you're not doing the jhanas first, I'm like, well, whatever you say, man. That's cool, man. Amy, thank you so much for this helpful explanation. You so clearly explained something that's confusing for many. Yeah, and I know I see so much online, and I would love to be able to step in and say, no, it's not like that. You don't have to do this. Or, it's like, or you have to see what you're doing relative to the bigger picture. But I'm just so grateful that, and perhaps that was my good karma to meet my teacher, Alan. But he said something to me very early on. He said, Paul, if you'd gone elsewhere, you'd have just gone into concentration states. No one would have told you any differently. And I was just so grateful that, and that's what I mean about compassion has two sides to it. And my teacher wouldn't put up with any nonsense from any one of his students. And I'm really slack with that. I really need to tighten up. I really need to tighten up with people. You just get away with way too much. But I can't. I'm just not like that. But anyway, yeah, his absolute insistence on these kinds of issues really did help me. But there are so many confusing things because people bring so much baggage, so many assumptions with them, inevitably and understandably. And again, that's why having real experience, having a sangha that's built around that real experience makes so much of a difference. So people can bring their confusion, they can bring their assumptions. And if they're open-minded, you can work with the teacher to explore what they are and to move past them. I've had plenty of people that just weren't ready for that, but I also know plenty of people who are, and that's what makes teaching such a joy and such a privilege when you actually meet somebody that are ready, that they're in that place where they're ready to really look at those assumptions. Look, we've been going on way past the hour. Did anyone have any more questions? I can't believe that's almost an hour and 15 minutes we've just gone through. Rebecca, did my reply to you make sense? I hope so. But it's been a really nice Wesak. Bit different. Don't forget to pick up your Tupperware on the way out. Kim, thank you for your clarity. I feel there's definitely a lot of pressure at the moment to feel depressed and or terrified. I see the suffering, understand the fear, but actually feel very stable and grounded. If you meditate, you will. I mean, again, it's all relative to how you would have. You are so much more stable now, and continuing to practice, continuing to take into account the Buddha's teaching on rebirth, on action and result, realizing that it's not, this teaching is not stopping you from helping. You continue to help, developing spiritual faculties through helping others, and then applying that to the higher teaching. And the more you get into the insight knowledges and see the truly transient, ephemeral nature of existence, you see what it really is. It is a cosmic soap opera, Kim. It really is. And then you realize that it's unfolding as it must unfold. It couldn't be different than it is. Okay. Oh, everyone's off now. Linda, I'm so glad you enjoyed it. Glenda, Lynn, Alex. Oh, I'm glad you could make the evening one. Alex, I'll reply to your email. Thank you. It was a bit long. I didn't have time this afternoon. Well, I say I didn't have time. I thought I'll do it tomorrow. Tom, Jamie, Great steam as always. Thank you, Jamie. Susan, really glad you could make it. Susan. Dave, great. Alex, thank you. You had 41 watching tonight. And there are many more who don't actually have Facebook pages. I look up the unique viewers afterwards, and it's normally double the number of that's listed up here. Natalie, Sue, Barbara, Scott. Peter says thanks too. Sue. Oh, I found a place I feel I fit in. Thank you, Paul and all. Not at all this. I'm so glad you're part of the group. Thank you, Paul. Yeah. Great. Excellent. All right, guys. Thank you for all your comments. It's been very enjoyable. Haven't thought about when to do the next one, but I'll definitely have a day off tomorrow, I think. Get over the Wesak hangover, if you can call it that. So I'll let you know when I intend to do the next one. But yeah, great. Do keep up with the practice. That's the most important thing out of all of this. This is just chat. The most important thing is daily meditation, developing your mindfulness, and really taking an interest in what's unfolding in your experience. Start with the most obvious things: colors, shapes, sounds, tactile sensations, just the obvious things, the ordinary components of your ordinary experience, and just develop that willingness to note what's actually taking place. Excellent. Okay, guys, speak to you soon.